Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat? We're thrilled, man. All throughout Saints training camp while they're in Irvine, our buddy Ross Jackson, Locked On Saints, is good enough to join us here for a Saints camp report. We'll do it daily all the way through August 16th. That is, unless Ross gets sick of us and says, hey, stop calling me, you jerk. Ross, how are you, man?
Stop calling me, you jerk. No, I'm just kidding. I'm great, man.
That was quick. God, dog.
Jeez, man. We didn't even get started.
Hey, this is so wild, man. You told me when we spoke yesterday, I didn't realize this. You went to school? You went to grad school in Irvine? Like, you went to school on that campus?
Yeah, man. Literally right across the street. So the Brent Event Center is on a street called Mesa Road. And right behind the Brent Event Center is where the two football fields are. Across that road is the Claire Trevor School of the Arts, which is where I hold my Master of Fine Arts Theater. It's from that very school, from right across the street. So it was cool. It was a nice little homecoming.
There it is right there. The picture's on Twitter or X if you want to go check it out. I guess you have to take the photo of it, right? If you're going to be there.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't tell anybody that I was coming into town, so that was kind of my way of letting everybody know, hey, I got them here.
Hey, set the scene for us, man, for a very decidedly different scene for Saints training camp.
Yeah, absolutely. Very, very different. Everybody's going to kind of talk about the weather and things like that, which I do think is worth mentioning. It does allow this team to maybe work a little bit harder, push a little bit more than maybe they can in, 90% humidity, 99% humidity, all those things. But I think the other thing that's really kind of interesting about this environment is that it's one that kind of takes away a lot of distraction for this team. There's none of the home life stuff. There's none of all those things. Not that there's anything negative about that stuff, but, their focus is on football all the time, and you can certainly kind of feel it. I would say that the vibe, if you will, was very different. It was a focused vibe, and even in a practice where you can only do so much, the NFL's rules with the first practice and acclimation periods and things like that, you can kind of feel a little bit of the intensity. And that intensity comes from the environment, but I think that environment is also driven by the coaching staff. We saw and felt a lot of that intensity during OTAs and mini camps as well. So it's great to see that carry through all the way over here on the other side of the country.
What was the structure of practice like today, Ross?
They started off with stretch, then they went into some individual drills. We got to see a little bit more in terms of maybe some new drills that were coming up. The running backs had a new drill to where they had sort of these red bars that you can run under. They had 3 of them lined up next to one another. The running back would start with the football, start running full speed towards those three gaps, and then 2 coaches would fill 2 of the gaps, and then the running back would have to kind of react and then burst through the other. So one of those kind of Dirk Foster things that's being brought in. It's always interesting to see what new things a coach brings in. So they went to those position drills to where they were kind of focusing on their own positions, and they went into kind of routes on air and things like that where they started to put things together. So they built it after walkthroughs with routes on air, and then they went 7-on-7 where you started to incorporate more of the offense, more of the defense, and then they eventually got up to team drills, interspersing some special teams in the midst of that. They only ran team drills twice for this one. Again, pretty light, not a lot of trying to push the ball downfield or anything like that, but that was kind of the structure in terms of how they did it. And everybody came together, met at the middle of the field while maybe some field goal kicks were going on and things like that, and then broke for the day.
At Ross Jackson Nola on Twitter, X. Make sure you're subscribed to Locked On Saints. If you're not subscribed, you're talking about a daily Saints podcast, and the Saints are in camp. It's just make sure you're subscribed to that podcast right now. Since you were talking about the running back drill, let me ask you about Kamara. All indications are he seemed to do well on a day when Kendre Miller got hurt. So maybe a thought on Kamara's day and Miller's injury?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the big thing around Alvin Kamara obviously was we were all very interested about what his participation would look like. He's in the midst of this contract negotiation with the team, but he was out there, participated in everything, individual drills, walkthroughs, full team drills, did it all. Didn't take any snaps off. He inherently had snaps off, but
sure.
He wasn't standing off to the side watching things happen. And also, he was fully invested, which makes sense, right? You're trying to push for a commitment with a team for your future, and that team wants to see what your commitment looks like, so let me show you. And I think that's logical. He said that it was always his intent to be here day one during training camp and participating. And then when we were speaking with him, I asked him specifically when it comes to his contract negotiation, how things, is it something that you're looking at for the now, or is it something you're looking at with the future? And he's very much concerned about his future. He wants to finish as a Saint. He said, I want to retire here. I want to finish as a New Orleans Saint. So again, making that statement and again driving the point forward that his goal is to remain a New Orleans Saint, and that's all that it is, that he's sort of looking for it. Now, does the value make sense to help to make that happen? That's the question that the team has to answer. And then I think you got another idea of the value when you have a guy that was drafted in the third round just a couple of years ago, and Kendre Miller leaving with an injury. And unfortunately, this has just become all too common for Kendre Miller, to the point to where when I asked Dennis Allen about the injuries today, one of the things that he said was to the effect of, Kendre Miller is a guy that's effectively got to find a way, or figure out a way to stay healthy, because it's hard to make a football team when you're hurt. And that was a very upfront remark by a head coach, coming out and saying it, effectively publicly challenging this player to find a way to stay out on the field. So we don't know the severity of the injury yet. We do know it is a hamstring injury, but so we'll be digging for more information there. But definitely something to watch, because man, if you want to prove that you're of value to this team, this was a real opportunity for you to do that. Now Alvin Kamara shows up, he's fully participating, and then you leave the field hurt again. That can be a little bit tough on your outlook.
Hey, I heard the Dennis Allen's comment, Ross, when he said it's hard to make the team when you're injured. Is there really a chance that Kendre Miller doesn't make this roster?
I think, look, what we've seen over and over again is that Dennis Allen loves to drive competition. And so when you love to drive competition, you have to have guys that you feel like can actually push. And one guy that I would keep an eye out on, especially after that comment, is Jordan Mims. Jordan Mims is a young, talented running back from Fresno State. He's got a little bit of that Fresno State connective tissue to a lot of this coaching staff, Derek Carr, Jake Haener, all this other stuff. But he's a guy that they really liked. Remember, they didn't bring him in as an undrafted free agent. He's somebody that signed as an undrafted free agent with the Buffalo Bills and then hit the market, and the Saints went out and got him. And then he's stuck on the roster the entire time. And he loves this system, this Clint Kubiak system. Everything down from the run game to lining up out wide, being motioned out wide, and being a part of the receiving progression. He loves every bit of it. And he's been healthy. We haven't seen any issues at all with him. And in some cases, you're just going to get better the more that you practice. And sometimes that ends up being the division, right? Like, I practice more, therefore I'm better, therefore I'm making the team, and you're not.
Ross, we're going to have plenty of time to talk about the offensive line once they get into pads. I know you don't really see much before they get into pads, but I do want to ask you on the flip side about a defensive lineman. Chase Young, neck surgery was out there. What, if anything, can you tell us about Chase Young's first day in the black and gold?
Yeah, he's hard to miss. I'll say that much. He is big. He is somebody that is, it looks like an imposing force. We really only got the opportunity to see him during walkthroughs and then a little bit of individual drills, mostly kind of standing off to the side. Did a little bit of kind of special teams. It was around kind of the special teams area as well. But that's all that we really got to see of him. So I don't have any big insight on him yet outside of what he looks like physique-wise. He looks like a guy that's really ready to get started. So it was great to see him already out there, at least doing those walkthroughs and things like that, and we'll see what his ramp-up looks like in terms of how he gets more involved over time. Kool-Aid McKinstry back in mandatory minicamps, over the course of those 3 days, he went from walkthroughs to individual drills, from individual drills to more individual drills, over the span of 3 days. And then today he was out there kind of participating. And so I'm wondering if maybe we see a similar trajectory for Chase Young, to where even just within the first week, do we get to see him advance a little bit?
Man, we're going to have a lot of time to cover a lot of ground here over Saints training camp. But the last one, if you had to put a finger on like day one standouts, anybody catch your eye or collectively catch the eye out there?
Yeah, absolutely. Linebackers, Demario Davis and Willie Gay. They were, I've been saying for a little bit, and I think many people have, that if this New Orleans Saints defense wants to get even better, right? This is a pretty consistent defense, I think is fair to say, since 2017. Sure. Consistently top 10, even though it used to be more in the top 5 conversation. But pretty good defense. And one of the things that I've been saying is that this team would be so much better if they were playmakers at the second level. And Demario Davis has been consistently one of the best linebackers in the league, obviously one of the biggest leaders in this defense. The addition of Willie Gay just takes the playmaking up an entire level. And so that was something that really stood out to me. I'm looking forward to seeing if it was a day one thing versus a consistent thing, right? That's something that they've got to be able to show. But those are the guys that stood out to me in terms of the guys that I feel like had the best days out there Saints training camp day one.
Make sure you follow him at Ross Jackson Nola, at Ross Jackson Nola. Subscribe to Locked On Saints. Ross will be there out in Irvine for the duration of camp, and he's good enough to join us to give us our daily Saints camp reports. Man, we appreciate it, Ross. We'll talk again tomorrow, man.
Absolutely, buddy. Take care. Stay safe. Talk to you soon.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.